Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe. I am here in Phoenix, Media Center, Radio Row. Always good to be able to get out here amongst the peers, amongst the people who do this, see the energy, see the camaraderie. Like it's there's a lot of people in this space. There's a lot of people in the media space, but I think that there are a lot of really good people in this space and really quality people in this space. But I can't lie when I tell you, it's just I don't see enough people who look like me, who come from backgrounds that are not the professional level. Like I played sports. I played sports in college. A lot of my colleagues that are close to me, they played sports in college, but we didn't play we didn't play in the NFL, and we didn't play in the NBA, and we didn't come from those backgrounds. And unfortunately, I see a lot of, not unfortunately, fortunately, I see some faces that look like me, but most of the faces that I see that look like me are people who at one point in time played the sport at the highest level. I think a lot of times when we think about that, it dilutes I shouldn't say dilute. When you don't see more people like me who are here, who are media personalities, or at least aspiring to be media personalities, when you don't see a lot of us that don't come from the professional ranks, it almost gives you the impression that the only way to do it, the only way to be able to be in this space as a creative, as somebody with an opinion, as a media member, is to have played the game at the highest level. I get a lot of times when I'm in conversations or discussions about players and about evaluations, a lot of times people will say, oh, well, you didn't play in the league, or you're not a GM, or you're not a coach in the NFL. And I go, those aren't the only people who have the knowledge. And also, they're not always right. And there's an actual legitimate track record to show that these guys are not always right. And so the opportunity to come out here and be around some really, really awesome people, to see some really awesome people is great. My good friend Chris James and I are here, representing footballgameplan.com to the fullest. If you have not already, make sure that you follow the YouTube channel at Football Game Plan. Make sure that you follow my YouTube channel, Coach Gene Clemens. Make sure that you follow Emory Hunt, the architect of Football Game Plan, at FBall Game Plan on Twitter and all the other places that you find social media at. Make sure that you follow Chris at CJ Florida 9. That's CJ Florida spelled out 9. Shout out to my guy Brandon Howard, really knowledgeable football mind and fantastic writer in the space and doing his thing down in Miami. Shout out to Teron Davenport, killing work in Nashville, covering the Titans for ESPN, and those guys that I'm just really, really close to. Shout out to Nando DeFino, who's the editor over fantasy sports at The Athletic, for always trying to do everything in his power to open up doors for people. There are just a lot of really awesome people in this space. Now, obviously, there's assholes, right? Like there are people who that for whatever reason have decided that the way that they need to operate in this space is to be not nice people. Is to operate in a manner that is not that does not lend itself to being kind. Competition is big, and when you see other people in a space that is limited, in a space where you don't get the benefit of there's so many jobs and there's such a high demand for the jobs that we can pay everybody well. People really covet and protect their their intellectual property. They protect themselves because they don't know when that next person that's ascending is coming to take their job. I've never wanted to operate like that. I've never wanted to be like that, to behave like that. I've always thought to myself that if you do a good job, if they know, they know, right? I always tell people, I was just talking about it with CJ today, that when took like to my discredit, like one of my false steps were I've been on all the social medias since Facebook. I've been the first person on all the social medias. And when Twitter first started, I got a Twitter handle, and that's why it's at Gene Clemens and not at Gene Clemens 357 or at Gene_Clemens or whatever you have to do to try to get your own name. What I figured out was early on, I didn't want to be the person that was chasing, like running up the numbers like we did on Facebook. A lot of people were just friending people on Facebook just to say that they friended people. And it was just interesting because like while trying to friend people on Facebook, you end up with thousands upon thousands of friends and you don't know people. And I never wanted to be like that. And so on Twitter, what I started doing is I wasn't promoting, hey, follow me. But if you knew, you knew. And because of that, the people today that follow me, I would say that 90 to 95% of them are in the industry. They're either coaches, they're players, they're writers, they're analysts. Like they work in sports media in some capacity. But that also means I don't have 10 and 20 and 30,000 followers. And so I've tried to kind of change that over these last couple of years and really be more purposeful about asking people to follow. But at the same time, it's not like a passion of mine to just be like, oh my God, just follow me so it looks like I'm important because I have 20,000 followers. But I would like you to follow me, you know? But this business is just so interesting because you have those people who just put on the face when they're on the camera. They have their personality, they have their persona, they have their avatar when they're on camera. But when they're off camera, it's a completely different story. When they're off camera, you don't see the same type of energy. You don't see the same type of gregariousness of love. Maybe they're guarded because they have to be, right? Maybe they're guarded because they have to be. We're public figures in a way. They don't want to misstep. They don't want somebody to catch them saying something that they don't. And I've just never really like worked like that. Who I am when I talk to you in the mornings, or today in this case in the afternoon, when I'm on my other podcasts, when I'm on various other platforms, I am not there to show you something that is different than what you would normally see. I am here to show you the person that you think I am. Like when you meet me in person, you're gonna be like, oh, that's the guy that I see telling people to keep it spicy, every morning. That's important to me. That's interesting to me. I think, and it's interesting. There's like an Andy Reid impersonator over here that's kind of that's kind of like throwing me off. And so it's just all this is, by the way, this is the worst thing for my ADHD being here, because like while I'm talking on the mic, I'm also looking over here and Tony Dungy's walking over with his family and his contingency, and we got a fake Andy Reid over here, and the Schmo is back here doing his thing. Shout out to the Schmo, like, hey man, I gotta stand up for the Schmo. Y'all don't understand. For sure. Yo, I don't even mind it. I'm just breaking up this pod right now to holler at the Schmo. Y'all didn't see it because it's not for you to see, right? And that's the part. Like, some of the times the relationships, the people that you meet, the things that you build, like, you don't have to share it all with the gram. You don't have to give it all to social media. Sometimes it can just be for you. You don't have to flip a picture. Sometimes it just can be for your memory. Now, I like the fact that you have those options out there for you, but it doesn't have to be that. You don't have to be on that type of time. I say that because, like, this is a special place, and it's been a journey for me to get to this place. Like, I remember 20 years ago. I remember 20 years ago being, in college at a, in our news station and saying, man, I want to be on Radio Row one day. I remember 3 years ago saying, hey, we're gonna be on Radio Row one day, and I'm here, and I'm still not here the way I want to be here. Like, I'm still not here the way I envision myself being here, but I'm coming. And the thing for me, um, we were talking about it yesterday. We were talking about what our superpowers were, and CJ mentioned something about his superpower being that his ability to recall and remember. His brain works like a computer, and it's true. Like, he's just got so much stuff up there that he can hit and recall. And I said that my superpower was my ability to endure. My ability to endure. I've been through so much in my life. I've seen so much in my life that I've just had to be able to endure. And because I have that ability to endure, I don't need to have a timetable on when this is going to happen. Personal. Like, I want to find love. I want to find the ultimate love one day, right? But I'm not in a rush to make it happen. And so my ability to endure means that I can endure these relationships that are not ultimately going to end in that forever love, with the idea that I will one day find it. And I feel that same way about everything in my life. When it comes to the job, when it comes to personal, whatever it is, I have an ability to endure. And I know that if you stay consistent, if you continue to just like hammer, 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 eventually something's going to get built, right? If I just continue to work, I continue to chisel, something's going to get created. I can continue to hammer, I continue to work, something's going to get built. And so I'm way off of what I wanted to talk about today, and we're going to get into it, because the first thing I was thinking about was when these trades came down and Kyrie Irving went to Dallas, was that Kyrie Irving in Dallas doesn't make a ton of sense to me, from the standpoint of he's a guy who needs the ball. Luka is a guy who absolutely can't play without the ball. Like, I will give Kyrie this. Kyrie has an ability to play off the ball, but Luka has no ability to play off the ball. That's why when he and Jalen Brunson were out there together, it wasn't always success, because he doesn't know what to do with himself when he doesn't have the ball in his hand. But for the optimal use of Kyrie and Luka, you almost can't play them together for long stretches of time. You almost need to stagger how they're playing in order for them to be okay. Like, in order for them to have success. Um, that's the type of thing that I look at and I go, It's interesting. Can it work? I don't think it can. I am surprised that this was the route that Dallas would take. I am not surprised that this is what the Nets did, because I don't think the Nets wanted to send Kyrie anywhere that Kyrie wanted to go. Why should they? Right? But then also, I 100% believe that the reason Kyrie did this the way he did it was to throw a jab at New Jersey and kind of derail their season because of the way they treated him when all of the anti-Semitic stuff went down, which, for the sake of what we're talking about, was never really anti-Semitic, was only ever saying, hey, look at this and the way this is. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I knew that what he was doing wasn't anti-Semitic. So I think that now you have Kyrie, who's out here trying to, go into Dallas. He's going to fail in Dallas. Dallas won't be the last team he's on. Most likely won't be the last team he's on. And then the next domino to fall is KD going to Phoenix, which works perfectly for what Phoenix has, because KD can play off the ball. And now he doesn't have to shoulder a heavier load because he's got a young bull and he's got a Chris Paul who knows how to get the ball to everybody. But that doesn't mean they're winning the chip. Just because you bring KD over doesn't mean you're winning the chip, because you severely crippled your bench in order to get KD. And it doesn't mean that the run can be a dynastic run, because you severely crippled your ability to add like young talent that keeps replenishing your team, because you got rid of all your draft picks. Like, sometimes two can be a crowd. Sometimes two can be too much. And we don't think about that a lot of times when we think about like how these things are going to look on the back end. But sometimes two can be way too much. Sometimes you need that one dominant alpha, and then you need a next level of guys. And if that happened, I think you could see people have a lot more success, but everybody's trying to fill their team with a bunch of alphas, right? You're trying to fill your team with a bunch of alphas, and meanwhile, you're realizing, oh, snap, this isn't going to work because our team, our collective, isn't where it needs to be, right? Like, that's the part. If the sum of the parts doesn't add up to something great, it doesn't matter how great the parts are. So we'll see how it works. We'll see what happens. We'll see if this can manifest itself into something great for that team over here in Phoenix. We'll see if it can manifest itself into something great in Dallas. I doubt it. I have more hope for Phoenix than I have for Dallas. But then I also think to myself, man, they really do not want LeBron to win another championship, right? Like, hell and high water. I'm a Lakers fan, so clearly I'm biased, right? But I was just certain that the Lakers are going to find a way to get one of these stars that considered themselves like big time and wanted to go and play and run for a championship, and yet nothing for LeBron. But I think that's part of them not wanting LeBron to get another one. And what we were talking about, what CJ said was, it's because of the vortex you get sucked into when you're with LeBron, because now LeBron is going to get the credit. And that's essentially another way of saying what I was saying. You know that if you go to LA and LA wins the championship, that they're going to say it's Bron's championship, regardless of what you do. Like, KD went off, it was still Bron's championship. So, AD went off, it was still Bron's championship. If KD came there and KD went off, it would still be Bron's championship. And we figured that out when we saw KD go to Golden State was clearly head and shoulders the best player on Golden State, and yet everybody still said, oh, well, that's not KD's championship. That is Steph Curry's championship because that's Steph Curry's team. And so then KD went to try to find a team of his own. But the miscalculation was who he chose. The miscalculation was the guys that he wanted to play with. He would have been better off going to the Nets by himself and then allowing them with the cap room and space to just add pieces that made sense with him being the sun and everything revolving around him. It would have probably been better for him to do that than it was for him to bring in a Kyrie, ball dominant, then try to bring in a Harden, ball dominant, two selfish people, like ball players. I'm not talking about their life. I don't know them personally. I'm talking about ball. Two selfish people, even though they get assists, we know it's ball, me, ball, beat the air out the ball. He would have probably been better off doing that than he would be. I mean, he would have probably been better off trying to let them put a team around him than he was bringing in his team. And now, several years later, it is the biggest disaster in the history of super team building, of guys coming together to want to play. This is the first time that it didn't work. And this is what they're going to point to now as to why you can't let players be GMs. This is what they're going to point to when they say, oh, well, this is why it doesn't work when the players try to do it. Meanwhile, they will just forget and gloss over the fact that, yeah, this felt for the players when they tried to do it. But these management people have been failing at this for as long as the NBA has been around. They've been failing to put championship caliber teams together. So the idea that they bring it up for one and they don't bring it up for the other is foolhardy. Like, we know what's going on. It's a power thing. It's a control thing. I'm gonna get y'all out here on this. I know that with the trajectory that they're on, Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce represent the greatest family in sports. They represent the greatest family in sports. Now, mind you, I was going to start and say, well, clearly it's Eli and Peyton and their dad, right? Because all three of them were NFL guys and blah, 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 blah. But none of them can claim to be the best at their position. Of those three guys, Peyton Manning's not the greatest quarterback of all time. Eli Manning sure as hell is not the greatest quarterback of all time. And while both are going to be Hall of Famers, Eli, both of them have multiple rings. Both of them have 2 rings. Cool, but they're not the Kelces. Because when it's all said and done, Jason Kelce is going to be the greatest center of all time. And by being the greatest center of all time, he's going to put himself on the mantle as one of the top 5 all-time greatest offensive linemen. Now, I've heard the argument for some other names, and I've done the research, and nobody has been able to put together the record of excellence. Nobody's been able to put together the record of excellence. Nobody's been able to put together the dominance that Jason Kelce has for as long as he has at that position. That's why he's going to get the nod. I am certain of it. When we're done talking about like legacy and what people do, Jason Kelce will be the greatest center of all time. Travis Kelce, when he's done, will be the greatest tight end of all time. And we can't sit back and say, oh, well, he got Patrick Mahomes. He was putting up these numbers with Alex Smith. And Alex Smith's not going to be a Hall of Famer. So we can't say, oh, well, he's putting up these numbers because he has Mahomes. We also have to acknowledge that everybody knows he's going to get the ball, and yet he still keeps getting the ball. We have to acknowledge that. We have to make sure that we show that. We have to make sure that we show that. We have to make sure that people understand that. This is him doing this while people know he's going to do it. They still can't stop it. It's phenomenal. So because Jason Kelce is going to be number one, he's going to be C1 or center one at his position. And Travis Kelce is going to be tight end one at his position, because both of them have won Super Bowls and have an opportunity to win multiple Super Bowls, because both of them are going to the Hall of Fame. The Kelces are the greatest family in the history of sports. Not just of football, of sports. Because what other family are you using, right? Are you using the Griffeys? Like, Ken Griffey is an all-time great. He's an all-time great. But his father's not an all-time great. His father was a good baseball player who had a long career, who was able to play with his son. Like, who else could it be? Is it the Matthews? Because the Matthews had a bunch of people who played in the NFL, but nobody looks at them as the greatest ever at their positions. Or so if you're not the greatest ever, I think the two that are the greatest ever, they're going to trump having more. I can't think. It's not the Antetokounmpos, because Giannis is the only one that's good, and the other two, well, NBA good, and the other two don't really play, or three don't really play. It's not just good enough to get them there. When you start talking about this, it's not just good enough to get them there. It's we are going to get them there, and they're really good, and they're the top of the top. That is Travis, and that is Jason Kelce, bar none. I'm really looking forward to this game. I'm still finding it difficult to try to like pick something, because it just feels like a win-win for me. It feels like a win-win. I don't really care who wins, and I like it like that. So I'm going to put a parlay together, but I'm going to put a parlay together that does not have anything to do with the outcome of the game. It's going to probably have everything to do with the score and then what individuals are going to do in the game. I hope that you guys are out there enjoying your weekend. Happy Friday to all of the people. Make sure that you love each other, and make sure that you keep on shooting for your dreams. Because without that dogged determination, you're never going to get where you want to get. Very few people get lucky, and we all know that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows it. So keep on doing your thing. Keep on striving. My ADHD is going crazy. Stu Gotts is over here doing his thing. Like, it's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. I do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Shout out to my Twitter fam. Shout out to my Facebook fam. We love you all out there. Till next time. Peace.